guys, welcome back to Move Plus. I hope you've had an awesome day. Our session today is going to kick off with some warm-up work, so getting the body nice and mobile, nice and loose. We're then going to go into a build workout, which is going to be consisting of 2 6-minute AMRAPs, 1 minute break in between them. We've also got the move workout, which is going to be a little bit of interval style training, so 1 minute stations going through 4 rounds. So we'll explain what is in those when we get to it. For the warm-up, what I'll get you guys to do is we're going to kick off with 1 minute of cardio of your choice. Now, what we're going to do for ours is a lateral plate hop. So we've got a small plate, and we're basically just going side to side, keeping those feet together, staying on the balls of the feet. From there, the next 2 minutes, we're basically going to go 30 seconds of jumping jacks into 30 seconds of up downs. Okay, so we cycle that for 2 minutes. The last 2 minutes, we're going to do the exact same format, but instead of up downs, we're going to do burpees. So that's going all the way down, slightly bigger movement. Good to go, Em?
Yep.
All right, so we're going to kick it off in 10 seconds. So 1 minute of cardio of your choice. You can decide what you want to do there. You can do the plate hops like us if you want to. We're going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So as always, guys, with these warm-ups, just take your time with this first minute. This is just always a good time to kind of bridge the gap from if you've been sitting down or laying down, body's stiff, hasn't been moving, to now starting to get the blood flowing, getting those joints loosened up. So take your time with it. Should feel like a nice, smooth ramp into things. Once we clear this minute, as I said, we're going to get into those 2 minute sections of the jumping jacks and up downs, and then jumping jacks and burpees. So 30 more seconds on this. Nice simple drill, guys. We've deliberately picked quite a small plate, so that allows you to move very quickly through this. You can kind of adjust the height to what's available for your home setup. 15 more seconds. So tiny little bit of bend in the knees just to absorb that impact and then spring back up. 3, 2, 1, and going into jumping jacks now. So we've cleared a little bit of space and we are going hands from thighs up to overhead. Try to make the arms as big as you can, guys. So sometimes it's tempting just to do like a bent arm, like short little movement. Notice Em's going real big, like right up overhead, right down to legs there. Getting that good movement, getting the shoulders warm. Feet are just going to jump in and out, so nice simple movement there. It's very similar to what we did with the plates. A little bit of bend in the knees, but not too much. 3, 2, 1, and going for up downs. So with this one, guys, this is kind of like the smaller of out of the up downs and the burpees. This is like the little brother of the movement. So it's a little bit quicker, a little bit faster as far as cycle rate goes. So we're just jumping the feet out to a push-up position and then standing nice and tall. So there's essentially just 2 points of the movement where we want to see a straight body. So right at the top there, shoulders are stacked on top of hips. And at the bottom, should be able to draw a straight line, head through to heels. And back on jumping jacks. So as we move through these minutes of the warm-up, guys, you can feel free to up the tempo if you want to. As we sort of get deeper and deeper and your body feels warmer and warmer, you can start to move with a little bit more intensity, but it's kind of up to how you're feeling. You can move slow through the whole thing if you want to. We'll go about 10 more seconds. We'll be doing 1 more round of those up downs, and then the last 2 minutes is jumping jacks and burpees. That's where we make the switch. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So looking for nice active shoulders here. It's tempting, especially if you do a lot of burpees. Sometimes we get in that habit of kind of dropping straight through. We're trying to hit the brakes pretty hard here. So nice stiff arms. It sometimes helps if you have trouble getting the body out to full length or getting that nice straight position, if you actually have a marker behind you and you can kind of look back and get your feet to hit that marker. 3, 2, 1. So back on jumping jacks, we're in the last section now. So these final 2 minutes we go 30 seconds on jumping jacks, 30 seconds on burpees. So nothing changes here, same long arm position. Staying nice and light and bouncy on the balls of the feet. Got a little bit of increase in tempo now. You can see she's starting to warm up. She's moving that little bit quicker. 3, 2, 1, and go for burpees now. So with this one, guys, we are going to go right down flat to the ground, and we're jumping at the top as well. So we still want to maintain that same kind of body tension we did for the up down, but you can allow a little bit more flexibility to kind of roll the body flat. Doesn't have to be a strict push up. We're just trying to get flat to the ground and then jump back up again. At the top, when you do that jump and that hand contact or a clap overhead, try to get the hips nice and open. 3, 2, 1, and back on jumping jacks. So in the last minute of the warm-up now. Doing good, Em. Ten more seconds. 3, 2, 1, and going back into the burpees one last time. Last 30 seconds of the warm-up. So you notice Em goes for that nice high hip position. She's kind of jackknifing the hips rather than kind of tucking into a ball. She's asking a little bit more of her hamstring flexibility to get into that position. Last 5 seconds. We'll see if we can squeeze one more in. 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, guys, that's the warm-up. If you want to take a moment to grab a quick drink of water, have a bit of a shake off, and then we'll have a look at the build workout. Okay, so guys, now that we're nice and warmed up, we're gonna have a look at the build workout. So as I mentioned in the brief earlier, we've got 2 6-minute AMRAPs. They will be separated by a 1-minute break in the middle, and we'll be resetting back to 0 at the start. So just think of it as like doing the workout twice, essentially. So what we'll see in that 6-minute block is 10 dumbbell deficit push-ups. So we're doing this with a single dumbbell. If you happen to have 2, you can do that, that's cool. But basically coming down, chest to ground, nice straight body position. If you're doing a single dumbbell like Em is, we just want to alternate maybe every 5 reps or every set or something like that, just so we're getting even numbers on both sides. That then rolls into 15 dumbbell bent over rows. We're also going to add in a pause with this one today. So from below knee height, we're going to hold it against the body just for a second at the top and then back down again. So this is a movement where the cycle rate's probably like to be a little bit slower. It's more about control. Final movement for this is 20 alternating V-ups. So going into a hollow style position, we're going to bring the arms up to one leg whilst the other leg stays out in that hollow position, going back and forth for 20. So you'll cycle that for 6 minutes, rest for 1, reset back to 0, and then we go through it for another 6 minutes. You good to go, Em?
Yep.
All right. We are starting in 10. So dumbbell deficit push-ups are up first. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So with push-ups, guys, obviously everyone's ability with this movement varies quite a bit. So you can go from knees, you can go from the toes, you can put it up on an incline. Just go with what's going to allow you to move through probably close to unbroken sets, at least to start off with. We want to have that nice flow of the movement. We don't want to be getting down to 1s or 2s right out of the gates. As we move to the bent over row, remember we're thinking about that pause at the top just for a second or 2. So don't expect us to really blast through this part of the workout. Think about more control with this one. When we hit the push-ups and the V-ups, that's where you can start to hit the gas a little bit more. So 15 reps on this one. And notice she's got that really nice flat back position. So she's bringing the dumbbell below knee height at the bottom, body contact at the top. And if at any point she finds that she's kind of rounding off, maybe that her low back's getting a little tired, she's getting into bad position, all she's going to do is stand up for a moment and re-engage and then get back into it, or she might even just take a rest, put the dumbbell down for a moment. Okay, so from there, going to the alternating V-ups. So nice tight hollow position, and we are bringing both hands to one foot. This one's a little bit subject to your flexibility level, guys. So if you find that you can't tap the toe like Em is, you can go either a shorter leg or just reach a little bit lower down the leg. You might go for your shin or your sock. And if it's a little bit closer in, you might be able to cycle them a little bit easier. But we want to try and prioritize a nice straight leg at least. All right, so that's one round down. We'll cycle back around to the push-ups. So the hands should be about shoulder width. We don't want them excessively wide. We want to get that nice kind of neutral position. It's just nice, safe, strong position for the shoulders there. And the feet are going to be nice and close together. So we just want to make sure we still get the chest to the ground, even with that dumbbell there. That's part of the challenge of this movement, is that it is a deficit, it is an extra stretch. So it'll be a little bit harder to work with. Okay, into the 15 bent over rows. Now, if we have a look at leg positioning here, right, the stance is close, shins are vertical, right, and the hips are driven back. So this is another one of those things where the flexibility is going to play a part. If you find that you're really, really tight there, just do the best you can. Might mean that you're sitting slightly higher than knees, but ultimately the goal is that we can get ourselves into that. It's almost like a 90-degree bend at the hips. Okay, moving to the alternating V-ups, 20 reps. Okay, so we just rolled over halfway of this first section. Nice work, Em. Right, 2 cycles down, we'll go back on the deficit push-up. So as I said at the start, guys, you can change like Em's doing every 5 reps if you're doing the single dumbbell one, or you can just change every round if you want to, as long as we're evening that up. And obviously if you have 2 dumbbells, you can just go straight through with the dumbbell on each hand. If you happen to be doing this at home on a kettlebell, guys, that's totally fine. You just have to be aware that they are a lot less stable. They might be a little rocky, so slow this down a little bit. Make sure you keep in control. The last thing we want is for you to tip that kettlebell over and hurt your wrist, so keep control. That'll add an extra layer of difficulty to it, so bonus gains, but just be cautious with that one. All right, so remembering that pause at the top of this one, guys, so it's a little bit of a flex. You want to emphasize the shoulder blades drawing back together, and try to visualize that your elbows are kind of ending up behind your body, right? We don't want to just kind of pull in and rotate internally. We want to actually think like we're trying to pull the dumbbell through the body. Okay, 90 seconds to go, so we're going to go back onto these alternating V-ups. So Em obviously is very good at this, she's very quick at them. What you'll see is that she's always keeping her shoulders off the ground, right? So when you do it at home, just make sure you're never letting yourself fully lay back. She's kind of rocking back and forth from her, sort of the top of her butt, just to the low to mid back, but she never lets that hollow position kind of release open. She's keeping that nice and strong the whole time. In the last minute before the break. So important with this row, guys, we want to aim for almost like belly button or like bottom of the sternum. We don't want to come too high up on the chest because then it becomes too much of a bicep movement. We want to think about lats kind of drawing the dumbbell towards the legs and then up. Now we get that really good back strength. So 10 more seconds, and then we're going to take that 1 minute break. 3, 2, 1, and resting. All right, so 1 minute break between these 6 minute AMRAPs, guys. So we'll kick up again at the 7 minute marker. You guys can have a bit of a wander around now, get some water in, have a chill, and then we're gonna reset back to 0. So you'll start back at the beginning of the deficit push-ups. Okay, 10 seconds. Ready to kick off this next 6 minute AMRAP. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So breaks over, guys. We're back into it again. We start at the top of the list, so those 10 deficit push-ups. We've got a running timer here, so we'll go from the 7-minute marker through to the 13. Okay, that'll give us our 6 minutes. But all same movements again. Think like we're doing the workout all over again. Yeah, we're going to try and maintain a similar kind of tempo. Hopefully we haven't gone out too hard the first round. We should be able to maintain a similar kind of split time as we go through this. So the first round or two going back through these movements, guys, just run through the little checklist in your head. Have I got everything in the right position? So close stance, vertical shins, straight back. Am I doing that pause at the body? Okay, check that in, make sure you're doing it really well. Nice work, Em. So as we move into the V-ups, similar sort of thing, run that checklist. Are my legs as straight as I can make them? And am I staying in that hollow where it's pretty much just my low back and the top of my butt on the ground? Obviously, second time through this, you're going to be dealing with a little bit more fatigue now. Even though we had that 1-minute break, we have got a whole 6-minute AMRAP under our belt now. So things will be getting tired. And this is where it's going to be a challenge to keep them nice and stable and locked in. Now, what you might find with if you're doing a single dumbbell deficit push-up as opposed to a double dumbbell, guys, you will find at the top of the lockout that the one that's on the dumbbell may not get to complete lockout, right? Because we're trying to keep those shoulders square. We don't want to press all out and then be kind of skewed across. So you may find that you're just slightly shorter lockout, whereas the hand that's on the ground will be fully locked out. So we want to always keep that dumbbell really, really close to the kind of the center line of our body, which is going to be, if you think like where the knots of your shoelaces are, we want to try and keep the dumbbell in line with that. If it's kind of drifting out in front, it's getting in kind of a worse position there. So we want to make sure that those lats are working to draw that in close. All right, so 20 of these alternating V-ups again. Maybe you can reach for either the shoelaces or the socks or mid-shin. Just make sure you're going for a consistent target each time. I don't want you starting at toes and then going, that's too hard. I'll go back a little bit and back a little bit. We want to try and hold our standard across the board. Okay, so we've got about 3 minutes left. And with the push-ups here, this is obviously predominantly an upper body or like a chest kind of a movement, a pressing movement. We want to pay a lot of attention to the lower body as well. So abs, glutes, even legs, you want to have everything kind of active and locked in. There shouldn't be a part of your body that's switched off. I'm going to go for maximum involvement of all muscle groups. All right, rolling into the last 2 minutes. So along the way with these movements, you can break them up if you want to, guys. They don't have to be entirely unbroken. Obviously better if you can, but the main thing is you want to think about being in control of the output. So rather than say, if it was the V-ups, getting 6 out and then going 1 and then 3 and then 4 and kind of being all over the shop, before you start the set, go, all right, I'm going to try and do sets of 5, or I'm going to do sets of 10. So be in control of what target you're actually going to go towards. That way you're always in control of it. What we don't want to do is just go to kind of repeated failure each time and sort of lose control of what's happening. Nice work, Em. So So one of the things Em does with this bent over row position, this would be very similar to kind of like if we're doing, say, cleans or snatches, she's going to kind of keep her head pointed to the front. Now, whether it's looking straight ahead or like 6 foot in front of her, either way, it's kind of targeted ahead, and that's just going to help kind of remind her of that posture position to make sure she doesn't start to look straight down and curl that head down, curl that chest down. We end up losing that really nice straight back position. So it's just a little bit of like extension there just to keep herself nice and stable as she goes through those rows. Now we've got about 30 seconds left. We'll see how far we can get. Okay, last 15 seconds. Okay, so we've gone to a bit of a different strategy there, just evening it up, and time. Alrighty, so that is the build workout done, guys. Again, have a little bit of a breather, have a walk around, get some water in. We're gonna have a look at the move workout in a moment. Alrighty guys, so we're gonna have a look at the move workout now. So how this is going to run is we have 4 rounds for max reps. We have 3 working minutes plus a rest minute, and that's just gonna cycle for those 4 rounds. Minute 1 is gonna be an alternating devil press. So we've got a single dumbbell. What's gonna happen is Em's gonna come down to a burpee. She's gonna pop up and then go ground to overhead with that dumbbell. Now that can be either like a muscle snatch or it can even be a clean and press. That's kind of up to you. But you can notice as she hits the top, when she comes down to the next one, she's already changed hands. So that dumbbell has to alternate each time, okay? And she goes back and forth as many as she can in that first minute. Second minute, we're gonna do a floor press. So laying on the back, we're doing this with a single dumbbell so we can grab either head, okay? If you happen to have 2 dumbbells or maybe a loaded backpack, grab it with both hands, that's cool. But we're basically just going through very similar to like a bench press style motion. Okay, we do that for the second minute. Third minute is cardio of your choice. Now we've decided to go with a step up. So we have a low box here, something that you can move through at a fairly quick tempo. You guys can pick anything you want, things like jumping jacks, running high knees, skipping, anything that's nice and continuous that's gonna jack that heart rate up. So those are our 3 working minutes. We also have our rest minute each time. When you hit that, guys, I want you to move around, try and shake those limbs off. Try not to sit still. So 4 rounds for time, or 4 rounds for reps. Are you ready to go?
Yep.
Cool. All right, going in 10. We have our alternating devil press up first. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So this movement is fairly slow cycling, guys. You want to sort of think your way through it. There's a fair bit going on. So we have a dumbbell burpee. We have a snatch or a clean and jerk going on as well. So just think about sort of taking the first handful of reps or even possibly this first full cycle through just to get the movement feeling smooth. Don't rush it and get it all scrappy just for the sake of those extra points. You want to make sure that you're being nice and efficient. With the burpee through the bottom there, guys, obviously we're going to be kind of a little lopsided, obviously because we've got a 1 dumbbell rather than 2. So you want to just make sure you're not getting yourself sort of skewed to the side there. Getting that chest to ground doesn't have to be a strict push-up, okay, but you do want to maintain a level of tension through that midsection. We pop up onto those feet and we go through that ground to overhead. So 10 more seconds, and then we're going to move to the floor press. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So if we have a look at M's setup here, we essentially have kind of like 5 points of contact. So the feet is 1 and 2, hips is 3, shoulders is 4, and head is 5. So none of them should ever leave the ground during this movement. That's just to give us really good stability and make sure that we're not kind of craning the head up or bridging the hips, getting into a bad spot with that one. The main thing as far as like getting a really safe, efficient technique is what's happening actually at your shoulder blades. So even though this is a pressing and a front of the body kind of a movement, I want you to think about driving your shoulder blades back together into the ground, almost kind of arching your chest up as you move through it. So it's like you're trying to reach your chest to the dumbbell. Now your 2 markers here are elbows or at least triceps to the ground, and then full lockout at the top. We got about 10 more seconds, and then we're going to get into our cardio of choice. All right, we'll pop up. 3, 2, 1, and going for cardio. So we're going to be on our step ups. So as I mentioned before, guys, you can pick what you want to do here. This gives you a little bit of license to be a bit creative with it, but should be nice and simple. So nothing too technical, nothing too heavy, nothing that's going to stop you in your tracks, which you want to be able to move for the whole minute non-stop. So if you are doing step-ups like M, low box is good because that just allows us to kind of keep the tempo really quick. If you go something high, it's obviously going to slow us down. We want to see the whole foot get on the box, so that way we can get that heel driven down into the box. We don't want to be just kind of resting on the forefoot. Okay, 20 more seconds. Notice the nice tall position she's getting to at the top there. She's not sort of being lazy and sort of being leaned forward. She's keeping that head up nice and high. Last couple of reps, then we're going to hit that rest minute. 3, 2, 1, and resting. All right, so 60 seconds rest. As I said, move around a little bit, guys. Shake those limbs off. Get yourself feeling good for the next round. We've got 3 more rounds to go. Okay, 10 seconds. We're going to get ready for round number 2. We are going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So back on the alternating devil's press. Now let's have a look at the ground to overhead portion of this, guys. So it's a kind of hip hinge movement. It's a rapid hip extension as we come up into a shrug, right? We want to get as much height and as much momentum on the dumbbell as we can so that the actual pull through to the lockout, or if it's pull through to a clean and then a press, is minimized on how much that arm has to do. We want to kind of save that for that pressing part at the bottom. So use the hips, use the shrug as much as possible. One thing that's really, really important is you'll notice that when Em pops back up to her feet from the burpee, she takes like this split second just to get her spine in a good position. So she's not pulling from like an awful rounded over position. She's actually going to get that hip and spinal position nice and locked in. And that way she's nice and safe through that low back. So 10 more seconds, and then we're going to move to the floor press. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So again, she's got her 5 points of contact there. She's getting that chest elevated. You will find that you'll have like a natural curve to that low back that'll kind of arc up off the ground a little bit. That's totally fine. We just don't want those hips to bridge off the ground because then we get into a really excessive kind of an arch. Now you'll find that if you're doing this with a single dumbbell like Em is, you're going to kind of do this anyways, but if you have a dual dumbbell or dual kettlebell set up, you want to make sure that the pressing position's nice and narrow. So it's almost as if I'm going to try to rein my elbows in really close to my ribs. It doesn't necessarily have to be touching, but close in so that they're not fanned out wide. And that's, again, just going to give us a safer, stronger position to press through. Okay, 10 more seconds. Okay, going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So we're back on these step ups again. As you're moving through these, if you're doing the step ups, guys, you want to just every now and then have a little bit of a look down at how your knee is tracking in regards to your foot, right? So Em's foot is going to be pointing dead ahead, okay? We also want that knee to follow with it. Sometimes what happens is people will stand up and the toe will kind of flare outwards and the knee will collapse inwards. We get a kind of a movement fault at that knee joint. So try to be aware of that. Check it every now and then. And if it does feel like it's going a bit wonky, slow it down. Okay, pay a little bit more attention to it. See if we can get that straightened up. I'm going to make sure we're not putting any extra stress on the knee that's unnecessary. So 10 more seconds till the break. Three, two, one, and resting. All right, so Resting for 1 minute now, guys. That's 2 rounds down, so we're past halfway. 2 rounds to go. Okay, 10 seconds. Going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So alternating devil's press, guys, you'll see that she'll change hands coming down from overhead. Now that's something you can do if you're comfortable with it. If you're a little bit newer to this, or maybe you haven't done this movement before, you can actually bring the dumbbell all the way back to the ground and then change hands there if you want to. Okay, but that's up to you, as long as you feel kind of comfortable with it and like you're performing it safely. One thing we don't want to do is to change hands with the dumbbell overhead. Okay, like if you're reaching up to change hands there, if that slips out, obviously it's going to clang you in the head. We don't want that. So make sure that at least below head height is when that dumbbell switch happens. Okay, 10 seconds. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. So we're on our floor presses now. Just taking that moment just to get into position and pressing up to lock out. So keep checking in along the way that you're drawing those shoulder blades, pressing them back into the floor. I always like to imagine I'm trying to like hold a pencil between my shoulder blades. And that back activation, that lat activation is just going to allow the shoulder to stay in a more advantageous position rather than it protracting forward and overreaching. We tend to get a lot of stress and a lot of kind of compression through the front of that joint there. We want to keep it set back as we move through it. 10 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So if you don't happen to have a box or some plates to do step-ups, guys, some other options you can do, running high knees or running butt kicks. If you happen to have some space to actually do some running shuttles, that's good too. Bear crawls, crab crawls, just anything that's nice and straightforward. I wouldn't go for anything like big heavy deadlifts or handstand push-ups or something like that. You don't want to actually hit a point of failure with this. We should be 60 seconds non-stop. If you also want to do this movement weighted, you can. So like a dumbbell in a goblet position. If you happen to have like a weight vest or something like that, you can. But again, keep it light enough that it can move continuous, yeah? Okay, 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and resting. All right, so final rest before the final round. Again, have a move around, have a little bit of a stretch. If the quads are starting to get tired or shoulders starting to get tired, try to do a little bit of mobility in them in this little break, and then we'll get into that last round in a moment. Okay, 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So devil's presses one more time. One thing I'll get you to kind of take note of as Em moves in and out of this burpee portion at the bottom is the feet will kind of narrow up a little bit as she jumps out the back. And then as she pops up, she can actually take them a little wider. So it just allows a slightly easier movement through the hips, because we want to have that nice high hip kind of jackknife that she's doing there. We don't want to be like tucking into a little cannonball and squatting out of it. That slightly wider stance is going to be really useful if you've got really tight hamstrings. It just gives us a little bit more access to it. So keep that in mind. You can open it up a little bit, and then that also puts it in a good position to be able to do that little bit of a swing through the legs to go up into the snatch or the clean and press. Ten seconds. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So we're back on our floor press again. So we're late in the workout now, guys. Fatigue's probably going to start to creep in. So check through, you're doing everything the right way. So feet are planted, hips planted, shoulder blades are wound back, head on the ground. That's an important one, right? It's very tempting sometimes to start lifting the head up and watching as that dumbbell comes down. It's a really easy way to start kind of overstraining that neck. Just keep it back in a neutral position. Try to feel your way through the movement rather than having to stare at that dumbbell. So you can see Em's still got those arms nice and wound in. When fatigue creeps in, there's a tendency that the arms will want to kind of flare out and try and find some other strength somewhere. She's just keeping it in nice and close there, keeping those shoulders safe. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and going into our final station for the workout, guys. Step ups again, or whatever cardio you're doing. So again, checking that list of things we want to make sure we're doing. She's got the foot all the way on the box. She's not letting the heel hang off. She's keeping the knee tracking well with the toe, and she's posturing up as she goes. One of the things that will happen with this movement when you get tired is when you step, that body will kind of lean forward and kind of roll up through that movement, which we don't want. So it's about staying strong through that trunk and driving the foot through the box. Fifteen more seconds. Three, 2, 1, and done. All right, guys, that is the move workout. So in a moment, we'll get into a little bit of stretching, but have a little bit of a breather for a sec. Okay, guys, so now that we're finished with the workout, we're just going to do a quick little run through of some mobility. We're just going to go through about a minute of each of these, but if you have more time to do a few more rounds, obviously that's very beneficial if you can. First stretch we're going to do is a seated shoulder stretch. So Em's sitting on the ground, legs are going to be out in front, and what we're going to do is try to work the hands as close as you can together. So I'm going to chuck a timer on. We're going to hold this for 1 minute. Now, the goal over time, so not necessarily today, but over time, is to be able to get your pinkies to touch behind you, okay? And then we can also push the hips further forward. Now, that's not necessarily we're going to be straight out of the gates. Everyone's got a different level of shoulder flexibility, but you want to try and work them back together as close as you can over time. Now, once we're in this position, guys, what you want to think about is lifting your chest up, drawing your shoulders back, and then taking some really big breaths in and out. So expanding the rib cage, trying to stretch everything across that chest and shoulder area. You'll probably get a little bit of biceps as well, which is always good. So 15 more seconds. Three, 2, 1, and done. So second stretch we're going to go to, we're going to just lay it back flat. So we're going to go arms out like a big T shape. And then what's going to happen is we're going to take one leg across as if we're trying to touch it to the opposite hand. And we're just going to go back and forth. So again, we'll do this for about a minute. And we're just thinking about kind of two things. We're going to hopefully get some nice hamstring stretching as we reach that straight leg across. The big one is going to be kind of low back and glute kind of tie-in. So that whole part across here, as it gets down to the top of your butt, is going to get a really good stretch. Notice how slow she's doing this, right? She might even almost throw in a pause at end range if she wants to, okay? And that's just going to get that whole rear chain of muscles loosened up. We did a lot of it today, so this will just help get us nice and freed up. If you have more time to use, guys, go through maybe 2 or 3 more rounds of what we've done here, and that'll get you feeling nice and loose and limber for the rest of the day. So we'll go about 10 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, guys, that has been your Move Plus workout. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you next time.